I don't want to totally move on from the weird sex stuff. I mean, I do. Socially, I would like us to move on from the weird sex stuff, but we can't move on from it in the news because it's everywhere. It's not just in the bowels of the internet. It's not just shady people with dodgy companies. It's in the government. It's in the U.S. military. The United States Navy has just launched a new recruitment campaign. I guess they didn't pay any attention to the lessons of Bud Light. They've launched a new recruitment campaign that tries to get new sailors by promoting drag. You can see there's this active duty sailor. He's a drag queen. He's not exactly a transgender. He's a full over-the-top drag queen. 24-year-old Joshua Kelley performs under the alter ego Harpy Daniels. And video going around right now of some of his performances that he's posted. While serving as his squadron's administrative supervisor, Kelley's shows are part of lip sync competitions. He's very, very different. There he is in a dress. They're supposed to boost morale. Not sure. I've seen enough of the drag queen sailor. Now, you would think this would not necessarily boost morale among servicemen. However, there have long been sort of jokes about the Navy. And I guess this is really my problem with the new drag recruitment tool, is not that it's decadent and debauched and counterproductive. My problem with the new drag recruitment initiative from the Navy is that it's just a waste of money, because the Navy already had very, very high quality recruitment materials in this vein going back to the 1970s. Sign up for the big band or sit in the grandstand when your team and others meet. In the Navy, yes, you can sail the seven seas. In the Navy, yes, you can put your mind at ease. In the Navy, come on now, people, make a stand. In the Navy, can't you say we beat ahead? And I love the Navy was really leading the charge with that recruitment tool, because the Navy obviously was the front man for it. But you had all the branches of the military. You had the cowboys, you had the Indians, you had the construction workers, I assume also the Army and the Marines and the Air Force and the Coast Guard somewhere back there. Look, Navy, if you want to double down on these kinds of things, that's fine. And a lot of people are going to joke, and they're going to use that apocryphal quote from Winston Churchill, which is that naval tradition is nothing but rum, sodomy, and the lash, which is a funny quote, even though Churchill never said it. But notice the difference. Back in the 70s, back at every time in history before now, the Navy had this kind of joke about it, which was that it attracted guys who were a little bit light in the loafers, okay? And that was the joke. And in those days, the sailors would push back on that joke. That was the joke, and they'd say, "How dare you? That's not what we're like. Get out of here. Shut up. You're a jerk," whatever. You'd push back. Today, the Navy is totally embracing that, and they're using that as a recruitment tool. It's an inversion of society, the likes of which we are seeing in every other sector of society. Now, when you want to protect your data from the prying eyes of these weirdos upending our culture, you're going to want to check out ExpressVPN. Right now, go to expressvpn.com/Knowles. When powerful interests want to push their agenda, who's to say they couldn't get big tech to silence any voice that doesn't fit the narrative? Americans are being forced to give up their ability to speak, and I, for one, am not going to let my voice be censored. That is why I choose ExpressVPN, and you should too. The problem with big tech is not only do they attempt to censor you, they also track what you do online. What you're searching for, the videos you watch, everything you click, they can match your activity to your true identity using your device's unique IP address. When I use ExpressVPN, they can't see my IP address at all. My identity is anonymized by a secure VPN server. Plus, ExpressVPN encrypts 100% of network traffic for protection from hackers and eavesdroppers. ExpressVPN is so easy to use. You just fire up the app, tap one button to connect, Not just me saying this. Business Insider, The Verge, many other tech journals rate ExpressVPN as the #1 VPN in the world. Protect your online data today by using the only VPN that I trust. Go to expressvpn.com/Knowles. Get 3 extra months for free. expressvpn.com/Knowles. expressvpn.com/Knowles to learn more. Speaking of our very corrupt and decadent establishment, this story has not gotten nearly enough attention, and it is delightful. Noam Chomsky is, at this point, I think about 1,000 years old. He is a celebrated linguist, but more than he is known for his linguistic scholarly work, he is known for being the preeminent public intellectual on the left. And he's always sticking his nose in where it doesn't belong, and he's always pontificating about all matters of politics and economics. And he's a pretty interesting linguist. He's actually had somewhat interesting things to say on politics and economics, but very, very much a man of the left. And some might say sanctimonious about his politics. Well, it turns out, something we've learned from the trials surrounding Jeffrey Epstein is that Noam Chomsky was buddies with Jeffrey Epstein. Wall Street Journal discovered this, and they reached out to Professor Chomsky for comment. His response was, first response is that it is none of your business or anyone's. Second is that I knew him and we met occasionally. Kind of a defensive response, because a lot of people knew Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was clearly a political operative. He was very, very wealthy. He invited lots of fancy people to all of his parties. So one could very easily say, oh yes, I met him. We were raising money for MIT, which is where Chomsky teaches, or we were raising money for this cause or that cause. And so, yes, we had some dinners. It's no big deal. But he doesn't say it. He says, yeah, it's none of your business. Yeah, I knew him. We met sometimes. 2015, we know from the flight schedules, Epstein was scheduled to fly with Chomsky and his wife to have dinner with them, as well as Woody Allen and his wife. Not a great look. If you're hanging out with a guy who is known to have preyed on minors for sex, not great to simultaneously be hanging out with a guy whose reputation is that he has a sexual obsession with minors. Chomsky was asked about this. He goes, if there was a flight, which I doubt it would have been from Boston to New York, 30 minutes, I'm unaware of the principle that requires I inform you about an evening spent with a great artist. Now, what's also weird is Chomsky hung out with Epstein after Epstein was convicted of the child sex stuff. So he says, what was known about Jeffrey Epstein was that he had been convicted of a crime and had served his sentence. According to U.S. laws and norms, that yields a clean state. Lots of other Epstein associates had an excuse. This Noam Chomsky one, this fails on every level. It was after the sex crime convictions. He's now trying to excuse the sex crime convictions. He's hanging out with other odd characters. He apparently did it a lot of times. The establishment is trying to sweep this under the rug. And we like to think, oh, well, it was just some people in high positions of power. No, it's all of it. Even Noam Chomsky, who has a reputation of being sort of above it all, he's a radical leftist. The liberal establishment doesn't like him very much. No, they're all just kind of in it together. I'm not even that interested in Noam Chomsky in himself or the Jeffrey Epstein story in itself. I'm interested in what it says about the whole power structure in the U.S. There aren't lots of tiny little factions and, oh, the Chomsky type people, they don't like Joe Biden and Biden, he doesn't like this faction. No, the liberal establishment is pretty solid. And even though they don't have necessarily the majority of the country in terms of the people who live here, who are citizens, they've got a lot of the power and they do a lot of dodgy stuff and they don't think they need to answer questions from anybody and they don't have to pay any consequences. Yeah, I know. Tell me what you're thinking. Brilliant, incisive, handsome. I agree. If you want to get more of it, you've got to ring that bell, ding dong, click the thing, subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.